Good afternoon. It's great to be here today. A little bit more personal situation today with the podium. I appreciate that working with me. So God does not require perfection or special talents to be his people. He uses ordinary people to achieve his extraordinary plans of salvation. If you consider Moses, he was burdened by self-doubt. If you consider David, he was a simple shepherd boy with human frailties. Yet both of these men were chosen for greatness, just as you and I were chosen for greatness one day. So similar to a musical instrument, people, you and I, were designed to be played by the master musician, our Creator God, producing beautiful melodies with good works for his glory. So we'll not be playing the guitar today. There'll be no special music that I know of. This guitar has a connection with its guitarist. If you work with an instrument over the years, if you're a musician, you know what you like in an instrument. I'm sure Mark Graham knows what he likes in a piano. So does James know what they like in a piano. But it has a connection with the guitarist, or the piano has a connection with the pianist. Just like we have a connection with our Father in heaven. We have this intimate connection because we are like an instrument. We could be considered instruments of God. And over time, this guitar will adapt and it will conform to the guitarist. It's not the same guitar year after year. It has sentimental value. It's been worked. If you talk to Eddie Van Halen, he's done all kinds of modifications on his guitar. And he's a master musician, as you and I were called to be. What we're developing as this guitar develops the connection with the guitarist, you and I are developing a connection with our Creator. And over time, it takes time to create that relationship with him. Because we are instruments of God. We are called to have intimate relationship with God. Because we're called to adapt and to conform, to be part of his family. Does anybody recall the name Joan Jett from the 1990s? There are many quotes. Good, there's a few that do. There are many quotes that I could have used for this, but she really used one that struck me. Joan Jett said, as you could turn your attention to the screen, my guitar is not a thing. It's an extension of myself. It's who I am. We are God's people. We are not just a thing. We're not just a mere creation. We're created in his likeness, in his image. We're alive with good works if we practice with our instrument. It's an extension of herself, as Joan Jett says. It's like another appendage that she works with, and she can identify with herself as part of her instrument. She says, it's who I am. This guitar is totally dependent upon its guitarist. It can do nothing on its own. It can't do anything with me, I'll tell you that. It's certainly, well, this one's probably made of other than metal and strings and wood, so it has no functional use. But the guitarist gives it its use by its designer. Who designed this guitar? Mark Graham let me borrow a ukulele today, and I can't say ukulele very well, so I chose a guitar. But you can see a ukulele is a different type of music it plays because it has a different designer. It plays the Hawaiian music, where this could play rock and roll or a variety of others. So the designer tells what kind of music it could play. Just like our designer, our Creator, tells us what we should play. He's the master musician. We're to produce good works and play that beautiful melody that he could listen to and feel loved by us, and we could glorify him with our good works. This dependence could be exemplified through Jesus, our elder brother. And he said, I could do nothing without the Father. And that's total dependence. You and I are supposed to have that total dependence on our Creator. And he said that in John chapter 5, verse 19. He is our perfect elder brother. He is the perfect instrument of God. He could play any instrument. Pretty amazing. The sinless life that we idolize. And what can encapsulate a lot of these things I've been talking about is in Romans chapter 6, verse 13 for our primary first verse. In Romans chapter 6, 13, it says, "And do not present your members as instruments of unrighteousness to sin, but present yourselves to God as being alive from the dead, and your members as instruments of righteousness to God." That's a tall measure, and that can only be done with time, working with it. We're transitioning from unrighteousness, from selfishness, to righteous works, being right with God. We're moving from disobedience to obedience. And this transformative process, as I said, happens over time. We're producing dead works in the world to producing live works for a purpose. We have a purpose, and it's important to remember we have this purpose to produce live works, good works to glorify our Father in heaven. So we need to learn to be instruments of God. When we first came into faith, I came in at a very later age. So we have to learn to be instruments of God. This guitar has two ways it has to be worked with the guitarist in order to learn and adapt to the guitarist. And those two ways we can learn for ourselves as instruments of God. This guitar needs to be tuned. The more harder Joan Jett jams on that guitar, the more that thing needs to be tuned. It needs to be adjusted, maybe on a daily basis, even after every other song. I might even have to switch out guitars to get another one because it has to be tuned. We have to be in tune with our Creator. And we need to be in tune with the four things that we all know so well. That is the Bible study, prayer, meditation, and fasting. If we don't do those things, we're not going to be in tune with our Creator God. Just like this guitar has to be practiced with. It has to be practiced. I know when I was young, my mom wanted all her children to play the piano. So we all tried. And then she got stuck with a drummer. And you can imagine that in the basin, banging on them drums, being pretty annoying probably for many years. Out of tune, can you say? Well, that was me. And so I remember carrying my snare drum in a satchel that my dad made for me on the way to school in second grade. And it took a lot of practice. And in the beginning, I didn't practice. I didn't practice at all. I expected results, but I didn't have much practice. So I had to learn to have passion for it. I had to learn to be disciplined. I had to kind of look up to my teacher. I want to be like him. And I had to follow the instruction manual of that book and follow those notes and follow those fundamentals that we're called to follow. The 10 Commandments. I had an instruction manual, and we have our instruction manual as the Bible to learn to be instruments of God. And that's that two-step process. First, we must tune ourselves with the Bible study, meditation, and prayer and fasting. Then we need to implement it through practice. We need practice. And that's one thing I think is talked about. I need to look at it perhaps more is that we're students. We're all just students. If you think you're learning something new today, that's great because we're all students. We're all disciples of Christ. And I think we need to always remember that to keep us humble. No matter how old we are or how young we are, we always have something new to learn. So we will go from step one, from tuning it, to practicing with it, to finally playing one day beautiful music. So what is that one main quality that we need to carry with us as an instrument of God? I call it a quality. I'm not sure what else you could call it. Maybe you could talk about it after. It's the quality that we need to implement. It's manifested in different forms because it's not always seen as nice sometimes. The one main quality is love. It's in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1. If you want to turn there. I just highlight this part of that Bible verse. The one ingredient I want to include in every aspect of our lives, every action we put into our daily lives. We want to implement love, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 1. He says, we don't want to be like a resounding gong. And when I look it up, a resounding gong is out of tune. Sounds weird. I don't like it. I don't know why, but I don't like it. That would be not having love. And the other idea is being a clanging cymbal, where you're just banging on that cymbal, probably playing to your own beat of your own music, right? Playing to your own beat. Does anybody remember the SNL sketch with more cowbell? Yeah, we don't want to be the more cowbell kind of instrument. So we don't want to be without love in our actions throughout every day. And I think of love expressed in a variety of forms, and I think of it as the fruit of the Spirit in those forms that it can be expressed in. So if you know the fruit of the Holy Spirit, it's the second one is joy. So we go throughout our days saying, I'm an instrument of love. I am an instrument of love, and carrying that with us as an identity of who we are. We can't be moved. We can't be pushed around. We fulfill God's will as He wants us to fill it in the way He wants us to. His will must be done in our lives, or we will not be considered the children of God. So how can we express that love? I'm an instrument of love. Well, where there's hatred, where there's bitterness, discord, we want to show love, demonstrate that. I'm an instrument of joy. Where you see people depressed, discouraged, we want to bring joy to their lives. Where they're lonely, we want to bring joy to their lives. And this is what I think the Bible says. We want to be all things to all people. I always took that verse as, I don't remember what verse it is, but I always took that as, you're in the culture of the Americans, you're in the different cultures, act like them, work with them, be as them, and I think that's all true, but that's like natural, cultural. But to be all things to all people, I believe, is to be that missing spiritual component that's missing in that moment. And that takes a lot of spiritual wisdom and experience, a lot of mistakes. You could consider yourself an instrument of peace. That's the way you could apply your love that day. If you're feeling anxious, how many of you felt anxious in their lives? I'm an instrument of peace. I'm not an instrument of anxiety. I'm an instrument of faith. I'm not an instrument of fear. And that's how we could take that with our lives every day and have that new identity, or express our current identity in a new way, in a way that changes us, that hasn't changed us before, because what hasn't worked before. Since we are His family, we are gathered together with a diverse group of instruments today. And God is our conductor. He conducts us the way He wants us to, unified, yet we're still diversified with a variety of instruments. And we ought to appreciate the diverse groups, the diverse people, or diverse instruments in our church. Instead of comparing and contrasting, which the world would like us to do, to divide us, we need to be unified in our diversity in expressing our instruments of love. We all have a variety of gifts. It's so amazing. We're still learning our gifts at any age. Our gifts of our talents, our personalities. We all have an amazing variety of personalities to express those. We have different skills. We have different levels of spiritual maturity. We have different cultures that we're from. We're uniquely made in the image of God. And we're called to live out as instruments of God, because we are greater than the sum of our parts here today. And that's all to glorify Him. So this week, maybe change a different view and focus this week on being instruments of God, allowing His will to flow through us to express that character of love to those around us. Let's encourage one another to express themselves as instruments of God. God gave us this will, His purpose through us to express that. And it's very precious. It's very precious. We are precious instruments of God. And it's time this week to share our good works with love, with patience, with joy, with faithfulness to the whole world, and be that light into the world. I wish everybody here has a wonderful Sabbath day, a wonderful time at the picnic this afternoon, and it looks like we have a wonderful day to enjoy each other's fellowship. Have a blessed Sabbath.